welcome to another Wolftime gaming video. We are continuing with Star Wars Armada today. Following on from yesterday's video for the core box for the Republic, we're now onto the fighter squadron that we get in that core box, which is the V19 Torrents. Great little ships, loads and loads of detail, but they're really let down by that bare plastic. Even though they have coloured them red for the new ranges that they're bringing out, and you've got the blue ones for the separatists, I really still did want to get some actual paint on them and getting them looking a little bit more realistic. But before we get started on that painting though, as usual, let's get that kettle on. If you've seen any of my videos before, you'll know the first thing we want to do is get them a really good base coat. I'm doing this with Games Workshop's Grey Sear spray. It's a really good spray, nice and thin, drops onto the models really nicely. Now I paint my fighter squadrons like this, so I'll create this sort of hedgehog with little wooden sticks and a little bit of blue tack and just stick the ships onto them, because the part that's actually inside the blue tack isn't necessarily important. That's not the important part of the ship anyway. And then we can actually get onto putting some paint on the models. We're going to be starting with that little part that's obviously in the blue tack. We just want to cover that up. So I'll grab some black contrast paint called Black Templar from Games Workshop. Just popping that onto the base here, and what that does is essentially make that disappear from the rest of the model. No, it's not completely invisible, but when we're playing on the black tabletops with the space and stuff, it sort of goes a little bit. To start adding detail to the actual ship now, we're going to continue using Games Workshop's contrast Black Templar, and we're starting with the engine. So you've got the engine pods that protrude away from the rear of the fuselage of the actual vessel itself. We can just pop this contrast paint on there. It's really easy, it goes on really nicely. We haven't got to add any shading, because essentially this does it all for us. You can see that looks great already, but what I also want to do is paint the weapon pylons as well. You've got sort of two weapons on the sort of wings of the vessel as such, and also we're going to paint the cockpit as well, just dropping a little bit of black contrast paint on there, so it all starts to look good. Now, to make things a little bit easier, I've grabbed the stand so we can just start adding all the rest of the detail, and I'm going to use Games Workshop's Basilicum Grey. It's another contrast paint to paint the rest of the engine. Now I know I've just said that we painted like the back end of the engine itself, where it protrudes away from the vessel, but we're now going to be painting the rest. So you've got these two areas either side of the cockpit that are sort of raised and they're domed a little bit, and all we're going to be doing is dropping this grey, the Basilicum grey, straight on there. Now if you were going to use normal sort of grey paint and things, you would have to highlight, but by using these contrast paints it gets rid of the need to do that, and you can just drop the paint on there really easily, and I think it actually looks pretty effective when it's done. You can see there it's dropped into the recesses really nicely. Now the next thing we're going to do is the red paint, and that's because I'm going to have all my Torrents painted in red squadron sort of a look. I'm using Evil Sun Scarlet, and that's just another paint from Games Workshop. I'm just picking out some of the details here. You can see the front of the vessel and the rear of the vessel I've painted a little bit, and down the rear section of the bottom sort of wing that protrudes away from the vessel. We're also going to be picking out a little bit of detail on the wing. If you look at some reference images online, you'll see that some of these vessels do have these red sort of square areas on the wings, and I think it looks quite effective when you actually drop a little bit of red paint on there. Adds a little bit of interest and makes them stand out from the rest of the models. If you wanted to paint different colour squadrons, you can obviously use different colours, but I really wanted these red to go across the whole board. Now I'm going to use a shade paint called Nuln Oil, and that's another one from Games Workshop, just to essentially finish off the fuselage and the hull of the vessel itself. So I'm coating it on there, and you can see the null nose dropping into those recesses really nicely, and it's adding all that detail without you having to actually make that much effort at all. Now this does go a little bit darker grey than I really wanted it to. However, I think it looks really good, and I've been really pleased with how they turned out. You can see there the vessels are looking absolutely fantastic already, and you could probably leave them at this stage, but I'm going to add a little bit of detail on the engines. Now to do that I'm using Sotec green initially, just to dot a little bit of this bluey turquoise paint on the rear of the engines on the back of the ship. Now this is a really bright bluey green colour, and you can leave it like this and it would be absolutely fine. However, I'm going to add an extra little bit of detail with Temple Guard blue. And this is a really bright blue colour, and what it does is, if you just dot a little bit of this Temple Guard blue just in the middle of each of the engines, just a little dot, what it does, it gives that impression that the engine is glowing. If you've seen some of my other videos, you know I do this a lot with these blues, with yellows and with pinks, and if you use 2 shades of these colours, it really does look effective on any of the vessels that we paint. Now you can see there the vessels are done, all the squadrons are done. I've painted them all with this red colour, and I think they look absolutely fantastic. We've gone different to what we've done with our rebel squadrons that we've seen us paint in the past, where we've done different colours because I wanted them all to be the same, because that's what we sort of see in the films. The engines look fantastic. You can see there what I was talking about with the glow. It looks like they're really glowing in comparison to the rest of the ship. The null nose dropped into those recesses really nicely too. I'm really pleased with how these have turned out. I think the cockpits look fantastic as well. It just stands out nicely. If I was to do it again, I'd probably water down the null nose ever so slightly, just so it's a little bit brighter, but I think they look great, especially when you start putting them next to the main capital ships, which you can see here. You know, you're getting that full fleet effect, and it looks really good. While I wait for some more Republic ships to actually get released, I'm going to be painting up the Separatist vessels too, so make sure you keep an eye out. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. Go and check out the channel now for more great content. There's loads of painting videos including Games Workshop, Star Wars, and loads of fantasy settings such as Frostgrave and one of my favourites, Boros and Badgers. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.